I've had men visit me at midnight, especially, and I have a story to tell, and I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting most to those that really want to find that get to the bottom of the truth about people coming and going, and why in the past has it been. We know there's various levels that exist, and the clearance levels, but there's also a level of people that know this is the truth, and this is something that's coming out. And I want to find out more from the people that are really into finding out the truth and see how they're perceiving it to be. And, there's people all the way up to the Rothschilds and the banks and the World Banks and all of that. Yes, that's going on. And, yes, we need to have more interest in all the countries and the wars and the suffering that's been done with fear and the fake war with 9/11 and why that happened to get control and homeland security and all of that. And there's white hats and black hats and people that are on the fence and the brown hats and the balance and we all know that we can all do better, and everybody has a voice. And here, at least in the United States, we all have a vote, and we're getting ready to change all that. But a lot of things are staying the same, and some things just take time. And that's one thing that I believe Bob Lazar and I had in common was watching the change. And my husband, at one time, we thought it was coming when he and I were going to go 87, 97, 2007, even 2017. But he died in 2015, December 2nd. It's still to this day like yesterday to me because I was there when he passed. But I have questions about life and death, reincarnation, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, phenomenology, cosmology, especially cosmology. I wrote a book, Knowing Cosmology, if you're interested, by Theresa J. Morris. Yes, I was born Theresa Jeanette Thurmond, Thurmond, and I used to write stories for Dirk Vanderploeg on UFO Digest by TJThurmond Morris or TJTM, or occasionally Theresa J. Morris. But I'm changing who I am, what I am, and how I am, and how all this is going to change all of us. And the fact that reality is setting in, that the Ascension Age is real, and the consciousness of the Ascension Age and what that means to ascend, as well as how gravity, space, and time, and those that have had firsthand experience, there's a reason. And it's like they're us, and there's beings that come and go, and the reality is not everything that we apparently think it is. But I don't want to upset it too much, nor does anyone else that has been working with beings on and off planet, or at least with their stories that feel like they're working on and off planet. But I'm at that age now where once I was taken off the beach here, and it's like the old stories in the Bible that have been around thousands of years for a reason, and the Emerald Tablets written for a reason, and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. And we've always talked about the same stories of people coming and going. And it all fits together for a reason. And I hope there's some intelligent beings out there that will somehow get a copy of this and listen, that there's a story and there's a vague backdrop, and we can backtrack historically and put together all the knowledge and the technology that's supposed to be put together and track that which was used in the past that's going to be threaded into the future. And I'm all about incentives and the Tom DeLonge story going forward as a public corporation, maybe Elon Musk. Okay, sir. What is his name with, why do I always forget him? What does he have? Virgin Airlines. Okay, his name is involved, but there's a lot of people putting together a whole new reality for a reason. And I believe some engineers have wanted or known or remember me from the old days somehow on the good side, and some friends of mine that are doing radio. And I'll do my best to come forward with what I know that in the past to me, it still seemed like fantasy, and to a lot of people, it still will. But the name Bob Lazar keeps ringing true to me, to be the fact that I thought with the unum Pentium, like it's 115, element 115. I thought for sure, because I knew about it before it was labeled such. I think they only had 112 back then, but I thought surely people in engineering and science and space were going to stand up and take notice to Bob Lazar. But then I do remember a lot of the ones that were highly educated and their minds formed with books from their prior predecessors on the planet, even though they had a PhD in something, that many of them that I worked with, physics, I was sent in to get the facts and to be intelligent and put it together for those that were felt like they knew that their reality was changing, but they wanted somebody, and these were people with millions of dollars, okay, that looked forward to having someone with intelligence behind them telling them the best story based on all the facts, okay? That's what I felt like. I was an honorable ambassador of goodwill for this great United States of America and for this planet. I really do. I felt like I was called forth by these beings that put us here, by the celestial beings, the extraterrestrials, the celestials. And I had died and came back, and I've been below my brain, seen my brain from the inside out. This is a true story. And there's stories I have lived through, put myself back together, learned to walk and talk again. But I felt like all of that was for a reason. It wasn't for naught. It was for a reason. So sooner or later, when you put this story together, you would believe that alien civilizations exist. There's extraterrestrials out there. There's other dimensions and realms. And it's time, now that my husband's passed, I can tell his story. And even some of the greatest minds that ever were on the planet still couldn't be open-minded enough because they'd been programmed to believe a certain way, sort of outside the box, and also they didn't really understand outside the black hole. You stay clear of black hole and you travel in wormholes. This was the common sense that I grew up with as a child. No, I didn't go to school and learn and get a master's or a PhD in any of this. There was no such thing. You just had to live it and know it and be around the beings that trained you, extraterrestrials, and how they trained you. And the government was very interested. They're also interested in your dreams and Project Stargate. And yes, there was a Project Pegasus, even though it wasn't with the one that Andrew Bashago talks about. Bless his heart. And I hope he's getting better now. And if he's not, that's okay too. And all those that hang out with him. So God bless all those people, and the way that it does open your mind into fantasy and spirituality and the fact that other levels do exist, and maybe even time travel. We know we can, the gravity, space, and time is all connected. And even Bob Lazar was talking about the nuclear, and I tried to explain to people, and so did my husband, that all this coming and going was nuclear related, and everything is nuclear, and everything in space was used for what we would call similar to rocket fuel, okay? But anyway, there's a whole story to tell of the various types of spacecraft that come and go, and many is not of Earth origin. And there are people that know certain parts, and we need to start finding them and putting them together. And I believe that's part of what I'm going to do. But there's people that have a voice, and they want to talk about the paranormal and those things they don't quite understand, and the strangeness of reality, and I'm going to help them do that too. And in between, I'll try to come back and share some of what I felt was reality when it comes to UFO talk, and what we should be talking about to help us, because there's going to be people that are going to want to get off the planet. There's going to be people that are going to be stranded on the planet, and yet we have to take care and be aware of our eco-environment, and that through thousands, if not millions and billions of years, that people have always come and gone, and there are levels of reality. And the best thing you can do is understand how we have come through technology in such a short time, just in 100 years, in our parents' age, from World War II forward. And I happen to have been told that these beings were watching and they didn't interfere. So there are some universal laws. And I'll do what I can to explain what I know about the Allied Command and the Supreme Allied Command, and not the Federation or the one with Star Trek, or the one that many people talk about that were in the books, and the one that even Daryl Sims, the PI out of Houston, that does alien implants, or pulling implants out, how those stories got started and what they found that they couldn't prove, but they were something. But were they really ever proven of anything? And I believe in forensic science, and I believe in science and research and what we can prove and disprove. But we also know there's tangible and intangible, and how we're going to separate the threads of truth from the threads that are now folklore out there with bluebirds and beings that have triangle heads or pyramid heads, or people with a pyramidology and the healing of the pyramids and the story of Thoth and the Anunnaki. And people are believing all this, folks, whether it's hearsay, folklore, left stories from fired clay tablets. Who are we to judge what is and isn't? But for each individual, they each have their own filters, their own perception, their own consciousness. And it's up to us out here that are really good journalists that want to research what we can and cite what it is and why we think what we do. And for those of us that have had firsthand experience, explain what it is you think, why you think it, and did you just come up with it, or did somebody teach it to you? Did you dream it? If you dreamed it, we say thoughts come from somewhere. But we need to start making sense of all this, because people are coming together. Reincarnation, knowing that there's life after death, and out-of-body experiences, because some of us realize we fly at night and we go to other places that must exist somewhere because they're just as real as this world, and all those dimensions and realms and portals of fantasy. And I'm going to do my part as a researcher and a writer, a journalist, to do my best. And hopefully God, whoever is out there, whether you believe in the force or the source or a being or all the world religions or don't believe in any of them, doesn't matter if we're going to talk to each other, because to me, we're all the author of our own life story. And that's what my mother taught me before she passed. And to me, that's very important, that you realize every day you make your own choices about what you're going to be, how you're going to be, who you're going to be, and how you're going to live or believe that which is taught to you for whatever reason, or that with an open mind that you are listening to. And UFO Talk, if it does nothing else, it gets you to believe in something that is out there that is greater than yourself. And I do believe, just like I started this, that these UFOs are driven intelligently. So I don't necessarily go after the nuts and bolts people, like in MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, the nuts and bolts, but I also don't go to the extreme where my good friend Janet Carroll Lesson, for all these years on this show, has gone over to listen to every possible experienced person giving a story of something, of beings, reptilians, which I've never seen a reptilian. I've seen a gray being, and I believe that they were humanoids, and they may be us from the future in the advance. We are you with the Jim Peniston and Larry Warren's story out there, and the Rendlesham story, and the black triangles, because I've seen those. And so the things that I've experienced, I'll be more than happy to share. The things I have not experienced, nor do I want to, are any of these things called the reptilians. But now I believe there's a reptilian part of our brain that we've named that. But I also believe that we're getting a lot of stories all convinced that you tell a lie enough, are fantasy enough to the right people, and sooner or later they believe they're seeing or doing or being exactly that, which is actually a fantasy that got started maybe by the Central Intelligence Agency for